Fine-tuning has become one of the most important skills being asked for in AI engineers today, and it is still one of those skills that not a lot of people actually understand deeply. Many people would have made a fine-tuning API call once or twice, but when you ask what's actually happening under the hood, the answers get fuzzy very fast. In this video, I want to go over all of that with you. By the end of it, you'll fundamentally understand the different kinds of fine-tuning methodologies so that when you go ahead and run your first fine-tuning project, you're not just making API calls, you actually understand the methods deeply from a fundamental level. Before we dive in, if you're new to my channel, hi there, I'm Aishwarya Srinivasan. I've spent over 10 years in machine learning and AI. I have a master's in data science from Columbia University, and I've been a data scientist at companies like Microsoft, Google, and IBM. And I'm currently co-founding the Gen Academy, an AI skill building platform where we're focused on training AI builders. Okay, now let's start at the top with pre-training versus post-training. Pre-training is what foundational labs do inside their own organization. When OpenAI trains GPT 5.5, or when Anthropic trains Claude Opus 4.7, or when Meta trains Llama models, or when Google trains their Gemini models, they are running massive pre-training jobs on huge GPU clusters with trillions of tokens of data. That process produces the base model. So what you get out of the box, whether it is from Hugging Face or from an API, is a pre-trained model. You did not train them, the foundational labs did. Now, post-training is everything that happens after that. And fine-tuning is the most common form of post-training. Here's the thing. This is not a new concept. It is very similar to what we have seen in traditional machine learning for years. In traditional machine learning, people used to train their own models from scratch on their own data and then fine-tune those same models on more specific data for more specific tasks. As a company, you owned the entire pipeline. But with large language models, the game has slightly changed. What we now have is model as a service. The pre-trained model is created by the foundational lab and served to you via an API. And you can take that model and fine-tune it to perform better on your specific use case. You are not training from zero anymore. You're just adapting a model that is already trained on a lot of knowledge base. Now, here is where a lot of people get confused. In traditional machine learning, model parameters might have been in hundreds of thousands or maybe a few million for bigger models. But with large language models, the parameters are in completely different universe. You're looking at a few billion parameters for small open source models, 10 to 70 billion for models most teams run in production, and hundreds of billions for frontier models, and over a trillion parameters for model like GLM. This is where fine-tuning gets genuinely challenging because updating even a fraction of 1 trillion parameter model is not something that you can casually do on a GPU. Let me also explain when you can actually do fine-tuning versus when you cannot. Open weight models are easier to fine-tune. When inference providers like Hugging Face Inference or Nebius Token Factory give you an API to an open source model, or rather an open weight model, what they're really doing is hosting the model weights and distributing them across GPUs. Because the weights are open, you can go in and change those parameters through fine-tuning. So models like Llama, Mistral, Qwen, DeepSeek, Kimi, GLM, these are all examples of open weight models that you can download, fine-tune and deploy. Closed source model is a completely different story. So models like Anthropic's Claude model, OpenAI's GPT models and Google's Gemini models are all closed weight. You cannot fine-tune them from your own infrastructure because you do not have access to their weights. If you want to fine-tune a closed source model, you have to use the native fine-tuning service of that provider. OpenAI has a fine-tuning API, Google also has it in Vertex AI, and Anthropic also has its own service. So what you do is submit your data, they run the job on their infrastructure, and you get back a fine-tuned version that you can access through their API. You don't get visibility into how the fine-tuning actually happens under the hood. And that's just the trade-off that you're working with closed source models. Alright, now let's get into the actual types of fine-tuning because this is where most people get confused. The first big bucket is parameter efficient fine-tuning or PEFT. This is where techniques like LoRa or low rank adaptation or QLoRa, which is quantized low rank adaptation, live. The idea behind PEFT is simple. Do I really need to update every single parameter in a 70 billion parameter model just to make it better at my task? The answer is usually no. So LoRa, as I was mentioning, stands for low rank adaptation. It freezes the original model weights and injects small trainable matrices into specific layers of the model. You only train those small matrices, and at inference time they combine with the frozen weights to produce the adapted behavior. So instead of training 70 billion parameters, you are essentially maybe training 100 million, which is a massive reduction in compute, memory, and cost. Now the next method is QLoRa. It takes it one step further. It quantizes the frozen base model down to 4-bit precision, then runs LoRa on top of that quantized base. You can fine-tune a 70 billion parameter model on a single H100 this way. QLoRa is honestly the default starting point for most teams who are fine-tuning their open source models today. If you want to experiment, you can just start with Hugging Face's PEFT library, which makes QLoRa drastically faster. Now, full fine-tuning is the opposite approach. You update every single parameter in the model. It gives you the most flexibility and usually the best quality, but it is expensive, slow, and requires serious amount of GPU infrastructure. You really only reach for full fine-tuning when PEFT is not giving you the quality bar that you need, which is very rare in practice. For most teams, LoRa or QLoRa is more than enough. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is reinforcement fine-tuning, because this category has exploded in the last year. There are 3 flavors to understand. The first one is reinforcement fine-tuning with verifiable rewards, which is a technique behind models like OpenAI's O-Series, DeepSeek R1, and most modern reasoning models. The idea is pretty simple. You take a task where the answer can be automatically verified, like a math problem or a coding problem where you can run the test, and you let the model generate multiple attempts. The correct ones get rewarded, the wrong ones get penalized, and the model learns to reason better ones over time. There is no human labelers needed. This is powerful when your task has a verifiable answer. The second one is called RLHF, or reinforcement learning from human feedback. This is the classic technique that powered ChatGPT. You train a reward model on that preference data and then use that reward model to guide the actual language model via algorithms like PPO, which is proximal policy optimization. RLHF is powerful, but it is expensive. You need a lot of high quality human preference data, and the training loop is complex. The third category is preference optimization, and this is where DPO, or direct preference optimization, comes in. Now, PPO is the core RL algorithm used inside RLHF. DPO, which is the direct preference optimization, is a simpler alternative that skips the reward model entirely. So instead of training a separate reward model and then using it to steer the language model, DPO directly optimizes the language model on the preference pair in a single step. It is much easier to implement and requires less compute, and has become the default choice for most teams doing preference tuning for open source models. So the real question is, when do you use what? Honestly, before you even get started with fine-tuning, start optimizing for your prompts, then start optimizing for your context. This should actually give you a decent bump in your performance. And it also acts like a benchmark, so that you can actually track how much performance improvement you got when you did fine-tuning. Now, when you're doing fine-tuning, start with QLoRa for domain adaptation when you just want the model to be better at your specific task or tone. Use full fine-tuning only if QLoRa is not enough. Use RLHF or DPO when you care about aligning the model to human preference like style, safety, or tone. Use reinforcement fine-tuning with verifiable rewards when you're training a reasoning model on tasks with automatic verification. The biggest challenge across all of these is data quality. Fine-tuning with a bad data set on a good model makes the model bad, not better. The second biggest challenge is evaluation. You need a proper eval set and a clear metric before you start, or you'll have no idea if your fine-tuning actually improved anything. I'm also going to add a decision tree which is going to help you choose the right methodology for your use case. Also, I'll share a bunch of resources in the comments below so you can go check them out. If this video actually got you excited about going deeper onto agentic AI systems and production level AI engineering, I want to tell you about what I'm building. As I said, I'm co-founding the Gen Academy with Arvind Narayan Murthy. Gen Academy is an AI educational institute with one clear mission: to train people to become the top 0.1% AI professional in the world. Our flagship program is a 6-week Mastering Agentic AI System certification. We have live lessons, it's not recorded lectures, every single week, and students actually ship end-to-end projects. For the projects, we have 2 different tracks. If you're a software engineer, AI engineer, or a developer, the code-heavy track has you writing agent logic, wiring up tools, and deploying real systems. But if you are a product manager, product marketing manager, in go-to-market sales, or a leader who wants to genuinely be fluent in agentic AI, the low-code and no-code track also has you build actual work. We have partnered with companies like NVIDIA, OpenAI, Nebius, LangChain, Llama Index, etc. And the partner team come in to give guest lecture, and you also get credits to build along. So you're not just learning from us, you're also going to be learning directly from the experts building these platforms. One more thing, this certification is also covered under the L&D budget for most companies. So definitely do talk to your manager about it. Most of you can get your company to reimburse it. If you're interested in it, that link is also in the description below. And if you had any questions around fine tuning, do drop that in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one.